Before watching my video, my tour of the magnificent ruins of Persepolis, Iran, done on December the 10th, 2017, please watch my following video entitled Missing in Action: What Happened to the Vanished Jewish Delegation at Persepolis, Persia? The Bible lavishes praise on 4 kings of ancient Persia. The Bible says, King Cyrus the Great released the Jews from Babylonian captivity and let them go home to a ruined Judea, or Yehud, as the Persians called it. Then, at the request of a Jewish delegation led by Zerubbabel, King Cyrus agreed to finance the rebuilding of the Jewish temple in Jerusalem, destroyed by the Babylonians. King Cyrus also agreed to the Israeli request at installing Jewish governors to Yehud, Judea. In return, the Israelis made King Cyrus the only foreign prophet of the Bible. The Bible says, King Darius the Great continued the financing of the rebuilding of the temple in Jerusalem unto its completion. The Bible says, King Xerxes, who after the intervention of his favorite queen, Israeli Esther, arrested and executed his vizier, or prime minister, Haman, who had ordered all Jews in the Persian Empire to be killed because he felt Jews were useless and untrustworthy. Xerxes then appointed Esther's cousin Mordecai as prime minister of the Persian Empire. The Bible says, King Artaxerxes I, the king, on request of the prophet Nehemiah and prophet Ezra, appointed Nehemiah as governor of Judea, Yehud, and financed the rebuilding of the walls and city of Jerusalem. But on a wall in the ruins of Persepolis, the ancient capital of the Persian Empire, we see 28 delegations from all parts of the Persian Empire, each bearing gifts for the Persian king. Delegations of Libyans, Indians, Ionian Greeks from Western Turkey, Arabs, Egyptians, Assyrians, Babylonians from present-day Iraq, Afghans, Ethiopians from outside the empire, and other delegations. Gifts of gold, dust, camels, oxen, cloth, weapons, gold objects, and more. But one delegation is missing, the Jewish delegation. After all the ancient Persians had done for them, why is the Jewish delegation bearing gifts to the Persian king not engraved on the walls of Persepolis? Nothing has been chiseled out. Modern-day Israel has named 5 streets, including one in Jerusalem, with the rest in different towns throughout the country, in honor of King Cyrus the Great. But the other 3 Persian kings, Darius, Xerxes, and Artaxerxes I, are given no such honor. And so the unsolved enigma of the vanished Jewish delegation at Persepolis, Iran, remains a mystery to this very day. We are now approaching Persepolis, and again these trees were planted to lead the way to this great and immortal city. So, now we are approaching immortal Persepolis. This is my 2nd time here, and it's just wonderful to be back. Here is we're approaching the entrance now of this magnificent ruin.
Okay, finally, we are in Persepolis, glory of the Persian Empire. You know, in time of Achaemenids, the Achaemenid kings, they had 4 capitals. So Persepolis was the political capital. Pasargadae was the ceremonial capital. Sorry, just stop, Julian. So here we are in Persepolis, the glory of the Persia. It was built in time of Achaemenid dynasty by order of Darius the Great, great king of Persia. As a matter of fact, the Achaemenids, they had 4 capitals, and Persepolis considered as the ceremonial capital of the Achaemenids. And also we have Pasargadae as the political capital of the Achaemenids. We have Ekbatana at the west of Iran. It's also the summer capital of Achaemenids. And we have Susa in southwest of Iran, which is considered as the winter capital of the Achaemenid kings. So 21st of March is our new year according to Persian calendar. It's 21st of March, the beginning of spring. So Darius the Great wanted to build his palaces just in order to receive the delegations from all over the Persian Empire, so at this site. So just before Nowruz or New Year, 23 satrapies or delegations, they came here in order to show their honor to King Darius.
And satrapies are governors?
Yeah, governors,
right.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So when they came here, they're supposed to go up through double the stairways here. So you see, there's 2 wide. So in meters, there are about 7 meters. It's the width of this stairway. One here, the other one on the opposite side. But the height is too short, just this size. But when the delegations were going up, hand in hand, in the same rows, they were going up in order to see the king, Darius or whoever. You know, the site Persepolis built during 180 years. Started from 520 BC and ended in 330 BC when Alexander, the Macedonian king, came here, and it was end of the Achaemenids. So we are going up hand in hand in order to see the gate of all nation. You know why it's too wide, I forgot to tell you. Just showing that I'm not higher than you, you are not higher than me. We are all the same. We are going up together. So let's go hand in hand to see the gate of all nations.
Beautiful Persepolis.
So here we have Gate of All Nations, which was built by Xerxes the Great, son of Darius the First or Darius the Great. So at the entrance of the eastern gate, you see there are 2 statues of the 2 bulls, symbol of the power of the Achaemenid kings. And there is a trilingual inscription at the top of this gate. You can see it up there, just over there, Julia. It's written in 3 languages: Old Persian, Neo-Babylonian, and Elamite.
Okay, I hope the camera's picking that up. There is the languages.
So there are trilingual
Yes.
inscriptions written at the top of the eastern gate. First, the Persian kings, they praise Ahura Mazda, the great king. First praise the god, and then they start to write, to talk about the deeds. And King Xerxes says, in favor of God, in favor of Ahura Mazda, I'm great king Xerxes. I built this gate of all nations to show it to my people from all over the land of Persia. So it's written in 3 languages that up on there, and then you see there are 2 bulls here. And before Persepolis was going to excavate, so there are some visitors visited this land, visited this site. You know, the first time when Persepolis was excavated was from 1910 and 1935, the first time it excavated, Julia. But before that time, so this was under the ground. So just, for example, few part of the columns just visible, but the rest of that was under the ground, especially from here, so you couldn't see anything. But just written some graffitis here by the famous visitors. For example, Sir John Malcolm, he was the British envoy. He visited this site in 1800. And there is a famous company, Central India Horse, from 1911 and 1912. They visited Persepolis as well. And Stanley also visited Persepolis, so you can see the signature of Stanley at the opposite side here. So there are some graffitis which were written by these visitors here, you can see.
Which was one by Stanley?
Yes,
Which was one by Stanley?
Stanley is at the opposite side.
Oh, okay. Now I hope that's coming out on the calendar, but there's Stanley actually visited this place of Stanley and Livingston in what, 18, the New York Herald in 1870.
Yeah.
This is on the other side of the entrance.
Okay, we are in the waiting hall. So you see, as soon as we enter through Gate of All Nation, there's a big hall here, considered as the waiting hall, with the 4 columns, with the height of 14 meters height, and it was covered with the wooden ceiling. So here we have this stony platforms. So if you look at over there, these platforms surrounded this hall, and this was for the guests, for delegations. When they entered, they could sit and rest for a moment in order to get their permission to go to Apadana Palace, which is the largest palace in the complex built by Darius the Great. So just come a little bit here closer to me. So we have a platform which is higher than the other part of those platforms over there. You see, that one is a little bit higher. This was the place for the guard or the guards. So one of them was standing over there, facing to this direction. There was another platform at the opposite side, next to Apadana Palace. So they were facing each other in order to let each other knows whose turn is that, whose turn it was, who was going to be the next delegation to see King Darius. One here, one the opposite side. Shouting, telling each other which person has the permission. So we are going to see the western gate.
Go ahead.
Okay, we are at the western gate of all nations. So there are two figures, two statues here, head of human, body of bull, and the wings of eagle. Each one has a meaning inside. A head of human means symbol of the wiseness, and the body of the bull is symbol of the power of the kings, and the wings of the eagle means that the eagle is the most powerful bird in the sky, and everything is under control of that. So they mix these three figures, these three elements, and they built this pattern at the western gate of all nations, through Army Street, for the guards, for special ceremonies, or special that they were just running and walking through this Army Street. So if you look at the walls of the Army Street at the right side, so you see it's the double layer walls. There are two walls, and at the middle it's an empty space, so nobody knows how many soldiers would be inside in between these two walls. So this was the security reason. That's why they built these walls in this shape. So you can see just the thick of these walls, because you can imagine that. It's the base of the walls, and it's going up through almost 7 or 8 meters, and then it was covered with the wooden ceiling, the cedar, which was brought from Lebanon. Okay, let's go to see the Apadana Palace, the largest palace in the complex.
And this is the Apadana Palace. And here we see delegations from all over the Persian Empire and even outside the empire bringing their presents to the Persian king. And there's another one just like this, and we'll spend a bit more time there. And that's looking back from where we came.
Okay, we are in Apadana Palace, which is considered as the audience palace or audience hall. This is the place that King Darius received his delegations. So this is the biggest palace in the complex, and the construction of this palace started from 520 BC. And took many years to finish the construction, and it was finished in time of his son King Xerxes. So the palace has 72 columns, and just 13 of them still standing here, so which are the highest columns in the complex, and also it was covered with a wooden ceiling. So why 72 columns? 72 is a sacred number in Zoroastrian religion. Means the 72 chapters of the Zoroastrian book, which is called Avesta. It has 72 chapters and it has the spiritual meaning, and that's why they built this palace, and they get the idea of the numbers of these columns from that book. So we have, or we had, not anymore actually, we had two huge wooden doors here, two main gates. So they were ornamented, decorated with gold, silver, and also the walls were polished with black color, and also the golden color design on this black one. And most of the stones, most of the columns colored with the black color and the golden color as well. And the head of the capitals would be the double-headed bull, or would be double-headed lion, or would be double-headed griffin. I'm gonna tell you actually which was accepted by kings, and that would be the double-headed bull. You know, first they designed three features, and then they decided to have the double-headed bull. So I will tell you later about this, but let's go into the palace, have a look, and then see the private palace of King Darius, which is called Tachar. Maybe you remember the celebration of Persian Empire in 2,500 years of Persian Empire in 1971.
Yes, 5 glorious days in October.
Yes. And just behind you, we have some scaffoldings just remain from that time. They built the tents for those ambassadors or those presidents or whoever. They settled here near Persepolis. And you know, after those celebrations, so a lot of people started to criticize Shah because of that. So
now it took 10 years for the Shah to arrange the whole thing.
It took, but it spent a lot of money, $billions, you know, he paid for these celebrations. But anyway, we have here Tachar Palace, or the private palace of King Darius. Tachar is a proper name, you know, it doesn't have any meaning, you know, for me actually, but it doesn't have any special meaning, but it means that it's the mirror hall. Because of the flashy the flashy stones using inside this palace, they call it mirror hall. So it was possible to see yourself if you look at the stones inside, but not functioning anymore. So if you look at this palace, it's a little bit higher than Apadana. It's about 3 meters higher than Apadana. So it was one of those palaces which was visible before excavation. You know, the rest of complex was underneath, but here was a little bit higher, so that's why it was more visible. So we have here some figures or reliefs showing that the delegations bringing the presents in order to give it to the Persian kings. And we have these two reliefs, the lion and the bull. So it has a meaning. You know, here is the ceremonial capital. So the ceremonial capital, and it's showing that the beginning of the new year, Nowruz. So lion is symbol of spring, and bull is symbol of winter. If you look at that figure, so you see lion is overtaking the bull. So it means that it's end of darkness and the beginning of the new year, you know, winter, spring. So this palace also is museum of the calligraphy. Unfortunately, we cannot enter this palace, but in Islamic period, as I said, it was visible, it was not under the ground. So a lot of people entered this palace and started to write some graffitis or some calligraphies inside this palace. So that's why they call it the Museum of the Calligraphy. So let's go the other side of this palace and then to see the private palace of King Xerxes. Persian soldiers.
Yes, Persian soldiers, yes.
Eternal guards.
Ah.
Okay, here we are in Hadih Palace. It's the private palace of King Xerxes. So if you compare this palace to the other part of complex, see it's more damaged. So why? Because Alexander, they believe that, the archaeologists actually believe that Alexander attacked from this direction. And this palace was the first palace which was destroyed by Alexander fire. So just you can see a little bit of the trace of fire inside this palace. You know, after excavation they found some traces of that fire inside this palace. And maybe you've seen the film 300. So in that film they're showing Iranian like the devils. So a lot of Iranians started to protest because of that film. It was built by the Hollywood. But this was not popular, and then after the people started to protest, so a lot of people wanted to see that movie. So what kind of movie is that? So I've seen that film, but this was not true. You know, the story and the thing that they're showing that in that film, in that movie, it's not really true. So just showing King Xerxes like a devil and a
or like a madman.
Yeah, madman. But King Xerxes, he was a very high person. You know, he was almost 7 feet tall. So he was. Yeah.
Did you see the 1962 movie, The 300? Maybe that was more accurate, possibly, because we were
I haven't seen
friends
that
with Iran then. You know, the Shah.
Yeah.
I bet you any money that the 1962 movie was more accurate.
Yeah, maybe I'm going to find
we'll
it.
Have to find out.
Thanks for
yes,
telling.
we'll have to check that out.
Yeah, definitely.
It's called The 300.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
So by the way, here's the Xerxes Palace. Also, it's about the same size as this palace, which is belonged to King Darius Tachar. It's even higher than that one. So natural events and that fire caused that this palace more damage than the other part of the complex. Okay, let's go ahead.
This is the Persepolis Museum, which I understood used to be the harem of King Xerxes.
Okay, we are in the Museum of the Persepolis. As a matter of fact, it was the harem of the Xerxes. So Xerxes the Great, it was his private residence and also his harem. And Ernest Helsberg, he was the German archaeologist. After they started to excavate Persepolis, they wanted to have a research center for the objects and the things that they found from this site, and they wanted to research on them. So they decided to actually rebuild this harem of Xerxes. So just gives you an imagination of the palaces of the Persepolis. So that's why you know, they covered them. They covered them with this special wall, and you can see the part of original wall here. So at this side, it's part of the original wall. You can see here, and also there are some objects which were found in the site of Persepolis, and also it's the Museum of the Photography. So you can see some beautiful pictures which were taken by a famous photographer from Shiraz. And then but Pasargade and Persepolis here you can see. So we're going to
Ahura Mazda.
Yeah, Ahura Mazda. We're going to see some part of museum.
So these were objects found inside Persepolis?
These are the objects found inside Persepolis, and this is one sample of iron fastening used in the stones. So you can see it, the way that they're fastening the stones together. And the other objects also used here. So you can see the bronze door handle here, and also this was a bronze handle of the fly swat, so you can see it here. So the way that they use that. Yeah.
And look at this, we've got a little bit of ancient Egypt here. These are the goddess, which goddess?
They call it female sculpture, goddess bronze, that's it, you know, it doesn't...
Maybe Hathor, maybe the goddess of love. Possibly. A pot that held liquid metal. And these are horse bridles. Bronze made and...
yeah, these are all bronze made.
Yes. This is a stone necklace.
And this one is from ivory.
Ivory. Bit of jewelry from ancient Persia.
Oh, yeah.
And more jewelry. Some have all made with gold. Now these are pottery flasks for drinking water. And these are pulleys. Oh, take a look at this masterpiece. This is a statue of King Xerxes, and I think this is the first time I've actually ever seen a carving of King Xerxes. Decorated clay pots. Take a look at this. King Xerxes.
And the Battle of the Devils, you know,
yes.
Just see the way that he killed the devils. It's an unusual animal, you see.
Yeah. And on the other side of the entrance again we see King Xerxes battling evil.
The head of lion with the horn of cow and the feathers of eagle and the feet of griffin, you know, such unusual figure you see here.
Yeah. Clay tablet?
So we have the clay tablets in Persepolis, especially in 4 corners of each palace they found these clay tablets. When the construction of each palace was finished, the kings ordered to bury these clay tablets in 4 corners of the palaces. But the point about these clay tablets is when they found them in Persepolis, so after they're researching on them, so they found that they were baked by Alexander fire. So that's why they are in good condition. This is one benefit of Alexander attack to Persia. Because of that fire, these clay tablets became, you know, they baked and would be in better condition.
Oh, that's lucky.
So this is the Xerxes inscription. It's in cuneiform and it's written in Old Persian language. And the translation is the great god Ahura Mazda, who created the excellent work which is seen, who created happiness for man, who bestowed wisdom and activity upon Xerxes the king. Says Xerxes the king, by favor of Ahura Mazda, I am such a sort that I am a friend to right. I am not a friend to wrong. It is desire that the weak man should have done wrong to him by the mighty, nor in that my desire, that the mighty man should have wrong done to him by the weak. What is right, that is my desire. I am not a friend to the man is a life follower. I'm not hot-tempered. It is even more, so just I'll read one part of this.
These are bulls?
Bulls in natural actually condition, and you know they made them, you know, they built them.
Yeah.
And the statue of the lion here, you see, just in front of you.
So these are the feet.
Part of the human statue, foot with white marble. It's not clear belonged to which king, but they found it in Persepolis, and it belonged to time of Achaemenid. So these are the silver coins related to Achaemenid. You know the name of the Achaemenid coins, drinks. We have the artificial eye of statue, stone statues. Actually, they just put them here. For the stone dish for special ceremonies, you know, they're serving wine or, for example, this sort of things on this tray. Yeah. These are a sample of color on the mud walls. So these are the lapis lazulis. So they see that they found it in Persepolis. So this is one curtain, Julian. It was burnt during that, you know, event. Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
Beautiful city of traces of a curtain.
Yeah.
Burnt curtain. And what would this be?
So this is a wooden piece of roof. Actually, this was, you know, covered with the wooden ceiling. Remember, yeah, part of roof.
So are these royal seals?
Yeah, these are the royal seals. So the stone seals, actually. So just to make a copy, yes. Yeah, over there.
Yeah.
So the pattern on that seal is like this.
Yes.
It's rolling them, you know.
Yes.
Some of them are rolling seals, some of them like the stamps.
Now these objects are for making knives and, I guess, swords sharp. These are part of an ear from a statue.
Or the sculptures, yeah.
Yes. Lion head in lapis lazuli.
And these are the sword hilt decorated in lapis lazuli. The sword.
Yes.
Yeah.
Marble stone plates that were found in the ruins of Persepolis. And this is a vase in marble, and they would have put flowers in it. This is the claws of a lion statue found at Persepolis.
So here is the Treasury of Persepolis with 99 columns. Actually, it's covered with the wooden ceiling, but nothing left from that period. So which surrounded with double layer walls. So you see it at the center of the wall. So they were the place for the guards. They were, you know, staying here for security of this treasury. When Alexander attacked here, so they more than 10,000 mules and horses. They carried the treasury of Persepolis from here to Macedonia. So just only the head of the base of the columns that these are visible here. So this was a part of complex which was at the heart of the Persepolis. So here is 100 columns palace. It is the second largest palace in the complex. 10 to 10 rows of the columns, cause that they call it 100 columns palace, which was built in time of Xerxes the Great, son of Darius the Great, and became part of the complex, and it was considered as the audience hall. After Apadana, we had another audience hall, which is this one, was built in time of Xerxes. So at the entrance of this palace, it has several entrances, but this one, if you look at these patterns or these figures, here you can see that different classification of people and the king and God. You see Ahura Mazda at the top, floating, and then giving his bless to King Xerxes, which is at the bottom. And just behind the king, you can see the Zoroastrian Magi, just holding a kind of umbrella or something like that. And just behind the king, you see the delegations. They are carrying the throne of King Xerxes. So different delegations from different part of the Persian Empire, you can see here. If you look at the face of the figures or the reliefs here, you see they are terribly damaged. You know, in Islamic period, especially 400 years ago, in time of Safavid, the people believed that, you know, these figures are like the, you know, in pre-Islamic period, you know, the people were worshipping these statues or this sort of things, and they had the same idea about these figures. That's why they wanted to destroy them. So they throw the stones to the face of these figures. So that's why most of them would be just faded, so not clearly to see the face of these figures here at the entrance of.
And they did the same thing in Egypt during the Christian era. They defaced and damaged many Egyptian monuments.
Who did that, Julian?
The Christians.
Christians.
A little bit Muslims, but mostly Christians.
Yeah, it happened here also.
And who is this up there then?
This is the King Xerxes, Julian.
Again, King Xerxes.
King Xerxes, yeah.
Oh, okay.
This is the copy. This is one here, the other one the opposite side.
Yeah.
They're in double. This was the...
Okay, this is an underground water system for delivering water under the ground into the palace. Okay, just outside Persepolis is the tomb of King Artaxerxes III, who reigned approximately from 380 to about 360 BC, approximately. And this then is the entrance to King Artaxerxes III's tomb.
Here we have tomb of Artaxerxes III, but archaeologists, they couldn't prove it. It really belonged to Artaxerxes III or not. By the way, if you look at the structure of the tomb, as you know, the religion on that time was Zoroastrian, so they wouldn't bury somebody into the ground. So they buried the kings into the cliffs. So they carved it and they made a tunnel into the cliffs, and they buried the kings into these coffins inside, and usually they bury them with their queens. So we have the King Artaxerxes at the top. He's standing on a platform and he's praying to his god Ahura Mazda with his right hand, and he's holding a bowl, the symbol of the Achaemenid king, and Ahura Mazda is floating at the top, giving his bless to Persian king. In front of king you can see the fire, the eternal fire, symbol of Zoroastrian. They were praying through fire. It means that it's symbol of God. And the moon at the corner up there, so you can see it also, it's floating at the corner up there.
The upper right hand corner, yes.
Yeah. And at the bottom of the king you can see 281 delegations of Persian Empire from all over the Persian Empire, or even inside or outside. So they're carrying the throne of the Artaxerxes, or the king. So at the bottom of these delegations you can see the ceiling of just gives you an example of the ceiling of the Persepolis palaces. And at the bottom of that you can see the head of the capitals, the double-headed capitals, and the columns and the entrance of the palace. So inside this tomb we have 3 graves. One is belonging to King Xerxes or Artaxerxes III and the queen, and the other one is not clear, maybe one of his children, just very next to the father and actually the palace. So let's have a look close.
Okay, this time we see the tomb of King Artaxerxes III has been barred off, but unlike last time, I actually got in, but never mind, we can see a little bit inside. So the queen was buried in here as well, and an unknown person.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And on the other side, the left-hand side of the tomb, these figures are much more badly damaged. And from the hill, which houses the tomb of what is believed to be King Artaxerxes III, we have a magnificent view of the ruins of Persepolis. Head of a bull, and another one over there. There's the second one. So, Arash,
So here is the unfinished gate, unfinished palace. So let's say gate. It's better to say gate, so it looks like a gate. So this was the construction started time of Darius III. He was the last king of Achaemenid, and obviously you see it is unfinished. So this was the last part of complex, which was not complete any time.
Okay, this is one world famous wall. Tell us about it.
Actually, this part of complex is at the western part of Apadana Palace. So when Alexander attacked, so the ceiling of Apadana Palace fallen down to here. So this wall was underneath for 1,000 years. So that's why they're in good condition. After 1,000 years, they were underneath, so nothing happened to this reliefs that you see here. So these are the nobles. The round caps are the Medes. This sort of cap are the Persians. So if you look at the faces, the style is the same, because the Medes were the descendant of Achaemenids. Curly hair, curly beard. If you look at the size of the beard, if it would be longer, means that he was a noble person. He had a high position in society. If it was shorter, it was just the soldier or whatever it could be. But the longest beard, which was belonged to the kings. So have you ever noticed that the kings has long beard, long beard, but the nobles are a little bit shorter, and then soldiers shortest, so compared to the others. So you see here they are chatting, they are discussing, and they are next to Apadana. They're going to be ready for special ceremony of Nowruz, or the New Year of Irania. So here we have the soldiers, the eternal guards. When one soldier was killed in a battle, they immediately replaced another one.
Okay, well now we call them the Persian immortals.
Immortals or
yes.
Eternal guards, you know.
And there was 1,000 of them, the best, the very best of the soldiers.
The best of the soldiers, and the thousands of them.
Okay.
So you can see them here. So also we have some signatures. Yeah. So there is a signature here when the master who was working here just put a trace on the wall, just prove that. For example, this section was finished by this master, so that's why they had this unique one here. And the lotus flowers with the shape of palms that you can see here, everywhere the symbol of the Achaemenid kings, and they divided them with the cypress trees. Cyprus is symbol of freedom. You see?
Beautifully made. Okay.
So here is the most important part of, or let's say the most beautiful part of the Persepolis is this reliefs showing the delegations when they came here in order to see Persian king. Just in front of them, the Persian soldier or Persian noble just leading them to the palace, so hand in hand. The meat, and these are also the meats. They were coming from the original part, from Apadana. So they're bringing the daggers, the vessels, and the bracelets and the ropes, so that you see here. So these are the other members, the Elamites, for example, here. The meat soldier in front, bringing bows, daggers, lion with its cups. You can see it.
Yes. There's the lion.
And the cups over there. The cups are there. They're taking the cups. Julian, just look at the breast of this lion. The breast.
Oh yes. Female lioness.
Yeah, female lioness.
Yeah.
So we have the other member, the Armenians, for example, bringing the stallion and this vessel. There's 3 members.
These are the Armenians?
Armenians, yeah.
With a horse, okay.
So, the one at the top, there are Aryans of the Herat. They're bringing double.
Which is in Afghanistan.
Yeah. Bringing 2 hump camel and the skin of the wild cat, the one at the end. And bringing the cups. So these are the Aracosians. They're bringing the bull with ropes.
Where are they from?
The Aracosians, I think they're from northeast of Iran.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, there's an unusual cap. Do you know what?
Yeah.
Who's that one? Do you
These
know?
are the Cappadocians.
From Turkey.
We were Turkey, bringing the vessels, caps, the bracelets, and the 2-horse riding chariots.
So here are the Assyrians.
They're bringing 2 rams.
Yeah.
And they're bringing ropes.
From from what is today northern Iraq.
Yeah, northern Iraq. And the water skin and these cups. So you see that they're bringing here. So so here we have the Ethiopians. They're bringing the elephant tusk and kind of giraffe and a cup. So that you see they're standing at the end of this delegations. There are 23. So these are the Libyans. The Libyans are bringing a stallion with 2 double this 2-horse riding chariots.
Yeah.
So you see here, and kind of mountain goat, and there are 3 members.
So these are
Zarangians, which belong to Sistani. It's southeast of Iran. So there are 4 members bringing a bull and the shield and the spurs. And the next one are the Arabs. These are the Arabs of Jordan and Palestine. So they're bringing 1 ham camel, the ropes, and there are 3 members. And these are the Scythians, Julian.
Oh, the Scythians from Russia?
Yes, from north west of Iran near Romania, just near.
Okay.
So they're bringing a stallion, the shields and the spurs. So these are the Indians of the Punjab. They're bringing the mule, axes, and the dust, the gold dust, and the spices. You see the Indians are look like naked. You see here is the significance of Indian. They're usually, you know, especially
Yes.
the men are not wearing quite well dressed.
Like the ancient Egyptians.
Exactly. So next members are Parthians.
Next we see the Parthians.
They're bringing 200 camel and the Copts, and there are 4 members. And you see the Median soldier just in front of them, guiding them to the Apadana. And they divided them with cypress tree.
So these are the Greeks from Ionia, from Ionia, Turkey.
Yes, are 8 members and bring decorated vessels, bales of cloth, and balls of wool. And next members are Cappadocians, as I said.
From Turkey.
From Turkey. You see the Cappadocians are 5 members and bring a horse and Median rope and trousers. And next group are Lydians, these members.
From, I think that's also Turkey,
Lydia,
isn't it?
yeah.
Lydia?
It's south of Greece, Julian.
No, south of Turkey, not
South of
Greece.
Turkey?
Yeah, no, Lydia is not.
Lydia are 6 members and bringing 2 double horse riding chariot, and these vessels, bracelets, and these cups. Okay. The pointed hat Scythians, they're bringing the ropes, daggers, and bracelets, and a stallion.
So again, Scythians would come from southern Russia.
Yeah.
Or Ukraine, I should say. Ukraine,
yeah.
too. What is today, Ukraine?
What is today here? Ready? Go.
Okay, so there's about 28 delegations from different countries, 28 different countries bringing their presents to the Persian king. But there's a great mystery here, and I want to talk about a moment for the Bible. The Bible says nothing but nice things about Persia, the Persian people, with one exception. And the problem here is when Jerusalem and the Holy Land was overrun by King Nebuchadnezzar and the Babylonians, he destroyed everything, and Jerusalem was burnt to the ground. So after the Babylonians were thrown out by the Cyrus the Great, and the delegation of Jews went to Pasargad to ask for money to rebuild Jerusalem, the temple, and so on. And King Cyrus said, yes, I'll give you the money, you can rebuild the temple. And the 2 delegations, I think, were of Zerubbabel, if I pronounce that correctly, and Prophet Nehemiah. So anyway, they asked King Cyrus for money to rebuild the Jewish temple in Jerusalem. That was done. Then they went back again to ask King Cyrus for money to rebuild the city. And again, King Cyrus said, fine, yes, I'll give you the money. They also asked King Cyrus, can we have a Jewish governor loyal to you? Yes, said King Cyrus, you certainly can. And then later, under, it is believed, King Artaxerxes I, the Jewish people went back to Persepolis to ask King Artaxerxes I if they could have money to help rebuild the country. And King Artaxerxes I said, yes, of course. So the Persian government certainly poured in a lot of money. A lot of, again, the name of the money is not...
Drik.
Okay, and a very great deal to rebuild the shattered country. So in reward, the Jewish people have made King Cyrus the only foreign prophet in the Bible, and also they've named 5 streets in Zionist Israel after him. That's modern day. But there is a great mystery here, because we see all these delegations coming from all over the empire and even outside of the empire. Imagine how far the Ethiopians had to travel, and the Egyptians, and Egypt, of course, was part of the empire, and the Scythians. But the problem is, the great mystery is, we don't see a Jewish delegation here. And that's the mystery. What happened? I mean, they spent all this money rebuilding the Jewish temple, Jerusalem, and the country of Yehud, as it was called then, Israel. And yet there's not a Jewish delegation here bringing presents for the Persian king. It's a great mystery. And I'd love to know what happened. And those seats over there where they used to have the sound, light, and music show before the revolution. Hopefully they'll allow it again one day. It was banned under Ayatollah Khomeini, the sound, light, and music show for Persepolis, although I don't understand why. This is a Persian ziggurat, and right next to it is a bust of King Cyrus the Great, ancient Persia's greatest ruler.